Have you ever bought hiking gear you quickly regretted? I've spent 34 years on trails testing gear to separate genuine value from empty hype. So in this video, I'm going to show you the trekking poles affordable enough to replace guilt-free if you snap them, budget hiking clothes that seriously outperform their price tags, the one piece of gear you can always borrow from a mate, saving you even more cash, and why your first aid kit might be way bigger than it actually needs to be. Also, if you ever struggle with deciding where to save and where to invest, I've put together a simple gear selection framework you can grab for free. I'll leave a link to that below. Let's start with where to save money because I have broken more of these than I care to remember. Carbon fiber trekking poles. Now let's talk trekking poles. They're great for balance, reducing knee strain and making your hikes more enjoyable. But there's a catch. I started using trekking poles as a hiking guide and for years I swore by carbon fiber trekking poles. They're incredibly lightweight, they fold up neatly, and they're a joy to carry, right up until the moment that they explode or break under pressure. Now, trust me, after snapping pole after pole when I'm out on a walk, I decided enough was enough. I mean, they're all broken, they're just all destroyed. After nearly 2 decades of hiking, I have lost count of how many carbon fiber poles I have broken. And I've even broken the odd aluminium pole too. Eventually, I got tired of spending big money on poles that just couldn't handle the tough stuff that I put them through. So I switched to more basic aluminium poles. Cheap, sturdy, and reliable. And while I generally haven't looked back since, I do break the odd one here or there. Here's what I've learned. For most hikes, you really don't need fancy poles. Budget-friendly aluminium poles like the MacPack ones here in Australia will do everything you ask of them without breaking the bank or breaking mid-hike most of the time. Most people don't break poles. I just tend to break them all the time. Do you break poles? Let me know in the comments below. But, and here's the important detail, if you are heading out on serious expeditions or tackling challenging terrain, it might be worth investing in something stronger. Right now, for example, I am testing out the Durston Iceline poles. These ones here. They're a bit pricier, they're ridiculously tough though, and they are supposedly the world's lightest 3-piece trekking pole. These things, which I put these little things on the end there as well, but they're a good pole. Now I went with these because I can also replace each individual part of the pole if I break them along the way. So I can replace that, I can replace that, I can replace the strap on the handle. Quite a nice system. But we'll do a review on them in a future video, but I'm liking them so far. Another great premium option is the Black Diamond Pursuit poles, built to handle the most demanding conditions. I've had a look at these and they were nearly going to be my pole instead of the Durstons, but I went with the Durstons. So here's your quick takeaway on the trekking pole situation. Save your money on everyday hikes by choosing simple, reliable aluminium poles. But if you want to spend a bit more, if you're pushing your gear to the limits on tougher expeditions and you want something a bit more lightweight and you're just using them generally all the time. By employing this little system, you can always have gear you can trust and you don't have to overspend on features you don't necessarily need. But you can also spend a bit more if you need to, if you know what I mean. Hiking clothes. Now, the same logic, knowing when to save money and when it's worth splashing out, applies to your hiking clothing as well. Look, I'll admit it, I absolutely love my premium hiking gear, my hiking clothing, and after more than 30 years on the track, I genuinely appreciate the quality, the comfort, and the durability of high-end outdoor clothing. But the reality is, not everyone needs that. Take my family, for instance. My wife and my 4 kids enjoy hiking occasionally, but they're not out there every weekend. They're not going on these massive expeditions every year. They simply don't need these $300, $400, $500 top tier crazy jackets or merino base layers. Instead, we head to the budget-friendly outdoor stores, and here in Australia, that's places like MacPack, that's our go-to. They offer solid, reliable gear at prices that don't make your wallet cry. And this isn't just an Australian thing. Wherever you are, there are affordable brands that deliver great quality without breaking the bank. Think of stores like Decathlon, REI, or even Uniqlo. Those brands have some pretty impressive gear that offers good performance at a fraction of the price you'd pay for premium outdoor labels. And when I've traveled all over the world, I have found lots of stores like this these days that just offer that more budget gear and it's still of a good quality. Now, if you're a casual hiker or outfitting a whole family, this is exactly where you should save. Another pro tip is to check secondhand shops, outdoor gear sort of swaps. I know there was one down in Hobart here in Tasmania recently where Recycled Recreation had like a day where you could go and buy secondhand gear. And there's also those online marketplaces as well. But you'd be amazed at how often you can find barely used, high quality gear at bargain prices. And I know that with my very first down jacket that I ever bought, I bought that on eBay or somewhere, a used jacket, and it was just awesome. It's still going strong today. So here's a simple rule for hiking clothes. Save your money if you hike casually or just very occasionally. Budget-friendly brands and second-hand gear will serve you perfectly well. But spend more only if you're hiking regularly, if you're pushing your clothing to its limits, or you genuinely appreciate the extra quality and comfort premium gear provides. Maybe you can just afford to splash out and buy good gear. If so, go for it. Either way, you'll stay comfortable, protected, and a bit financially smarter, no matter how often you're hitting the track. Trekking pole tents, when you still bring tent poles anyway. Now, speaking of ultralight gear, let's talk about another popular hiking hack that doesn't always work out, and that is trekking pole tents. Now, the idea behind trekking pole tents is smart. You use your trekking poles as tent supports, cutting weight from your pack. Sounds great, right? But here is the catch. What if your trekking poles break? Well, I bought a trekking pole tent specifically to shave weight off my pack by not having to take tent poles. But remember my history with the trekking poles? Well, yeah, I don't exactly trust them not to snap. So what do? I end up packing extra tent poles as backup, thereby completely defeating the whole purpose of choosing a trekking pole tent in the first place. Here's the lesson learned there. Trekking pole tents can be fantastic, but only if you are confident your poles won't fail. And most people are very confident their poles won't fail. But if you're not, you're probably just adding unnecessary complexity and weight to your setup because you're packing extra tent poles anyway. And where can you save here? Well, if you're like me and you always end up bringing backup poles, don't waste your money on a trekking pole tent. Sure, you find some sticks or some bits of wood that you can use if your pole's snapped, or you can try to repair your poles, but I'm tending just to use a regular tent instead. It's simpler, and for me, it's a bit more reliable. However, if you trust your poles and you're confident in their durability, then investing in a trekking pole tent can significantly cut your pack weight if you choose to go that way. But I think for now, most of the time, I'm sticking with a regular tent. And by the way, to help you easily figure out where to spend and when to save on gear, I've put together a free hiking gear selection guide. It's a bit of a framework on how to select gear. There's a free version, there's a premium version. It's packed with clear, practical advice. Just click the link below and grab your copy. Cheap hiking footwear will wreck your feet. Now, while you can sometimes get away with saving money on some gear, there's one area where cutting corners can seriously backfire, and that is with your footwear. Your feet are everything when you're on a hike. Yet over the years, I have seen a lot of people making the same mistake, buying cheap hiking footwear that looks like a great deal until it isn't. Now, you may have seen it happen yourself. You've seen hikers limping, you've seen feet blistered and sore. You've seen shoes literally falling to bits after just a few walks. I've seen budget footwear lead to painful blisters, aching feet, and even ruin people's hiking trips where we've had to jig together some sort of temporary shoe or piece of footwear for them from bits and pieces. And generally, footwear is one place where saving a few dollars up front can cost you dearly down the line. The bottom line is this: footwear is the absolute worst place to go cheap, to go el cheapo. Investing in quality shoes or boots that fit your feet properly is worth every cent. Now, if you're only doing short casual hikes on easy tracks, a modestly priced trail runner might be okay. Just make sure they fit comfortably and offer decent support. But for anything longer or more demanding, it is critical to invest in durable, well-fitted footwear. Now, personally, I use a mixture of boots and trail runners depending on the conditions I'm going to be facing and where I'm going to. But the key is always to try them on, walk around, and choose footwear that feels great for your unique type of foot. And a lot of hiking stores will let you take the footwear home after you've bought it, wear it around inside your house for a while to see what it's like, wear it for a few days, and they'll let you return it and exchange it for another one. It's worth asking that question when you're buying footwear. So just remember that your feet carry you every step of the way. Don't skimp here, spend wisely on footwear, and you'll hike further, happier, and hopefully you'll be pain-free, unless it is just a really tough hike, and that's a different story altogether. Now, while good footwear can help prevent injuries, no amount of gear will make you invincible on the trail. And that brings me to another mistake that I used to make, and that is carrying a ridiculously overbuilt first aid kit. Overbuilt first aid kits you'll never use. Now, I have a pharmacy background, so believe me, I used to carry an absolutely massive first aid kit back in the day. And when I think about it now, honestly, it probably belonged more on a battlefield than on a bushwalk. It was heavy, it was expensive, and it was filled with stuff I never actually used. I mean, I remember there was this tube of like antiseptic or something, this big tube, and I carried that around that thing for years. It was in there for years. But over the years, and especially after completing a few wilderness first aid courses, I realized something pretty important. If something truly serious happens out in the wilderness, no first aid kit in the world is going to fully save the day. In a real emergency, and I mean a real emergency, my priority is getting professional help quickly, usually by triggering a personal locator beacon or an EPIRB, something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying skip the first aid kit entirely. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying be smart about what goes into it. Now, these days, instead of lugging around an entire pharmacy, I keep my first aid kit lean and practical. For a group of 4 to 6 people, here's exactly what I sort of carry. I've got a snake bite kit, which has got 2 pressure bandages, and it's got a couple of triangular bandages in there as well. And then in the main kit itself, I've got a space blanket, I've got a few band-aids and a couple of little patches. I've got some blister kit with a few blister patches in it, couple of steri strips just to hold a wound closed if I needed them, and just a bit of paper tape. Maybe a few painkillers as well. That's all I take in my first aid kit on like a 10-day, 2-week trip. I might chuck in a few extra blister kits if I think there's going to be an issue, but that is it. So what can you do here? Where can you save? Well, skip on the massive over-the-top kits filled with gear you'll never realistically use. Instead, focus on quality multi-use items. The beauty of my simple setup there is that the snakebite kit can also handle sprains, lacerations, and other common injuries, at least until professional help arrives. Bottom line, keep your first aid kit simple, practical, and effective. Carry what you'll realistically use, and when needed, have a beacon or a PLB ready for calling in the professionals during an emergency. This keeps your pack lighter, your wallet happier, and your hikes still very safe. Overpriced multi-tools that never get used. And that same mindset applies to other gear. Cut the unnecessary weight and bring only what's practical. Take multi-tools, for example. Multi-tools look impressive. They seem like the ultimate hiking gadget, packed with useful tools for every occasion and situation. But here's the reality, most hikers never actually need a big, heavy, expensive multi-tool when they're on a walk. Let me give you an example from my own experience. I've never once found myself wishing I had a hefty, expensive multi-tool on a hike. Instead, well, I just carry a simple, lightweight knife, usually something like a Victorinox Classic SD or an Opinel type knife, something like that. But generally, on the rare occasion I may actually have needed a multi-tool, which is maybe once, my mate had one anyway. Problem solved. And even without it, we could have got by and got on with the walk without the multi-tool. And look at that, it's quite small, it's tiny. It's got a toothpick, it's got little tweezers, it's got a little knife, it's even got little scissors. It's even got little scissors. I mean, you don't need anything else. That's perfect. It's awesome. So here's the takeaway. Don't pack gear based on what you might need. Pack based on what you actually use regularly. And unless you absolutely know you will need it, ditch the heavy multi-tool. It's usually just extra weight you'll actually never use. Instead, invest in a small, reliable, lightweight knife. For the vast majority of hikers, this is all you'll ever need and you'll barely notice it's there. So keep your pack lighter, simpler, and smarter. And if you don't regularly use a tool, don't carry it. Save your money and your back by sticking with gear you'll actually use. You might lose it because it's so small, but just stick with the gear you'll use. Now, even if you avoid these gear traps, the wrong food choices can ruin your hike just as easily. So watch this video up here next to see a few handy food tricks for your next hike.